but I want to stay in the UK. Like, ain't nobody tell you to leave UK. You would make a month here. A nurse would make it in 2 weeks, and it would make more than that. Somebody in Walmart could make more than what a nurse makes.
How you did walking, anything you do, people go still talk about it.
Hey guys, welcome and welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new, welcome, and if you guys are returning to the channel, welcome. It is your girl Ice2G. I do nursing and travel vlogs around here. And in today's video, we are going to compare UK nursing versus US nursing and what I found very interesting. It's so fascinating to know how much nurses in the UK make versus nurses in the USA. Literally came on my For You page on TikTok and I was like, I need to see the full video. And you guys, it's literally here on YouTube.
Joyce, be honest with me. There are thousands of people watching between the UK and the US. Is it worth it? Yeah.
I would honestly
So I checked this video out. I'm the type of person, I'm very controversial. So if you guys are not following me on Instagram, make sure you go ahead and follow me on Instagram. That's where I really like voice out my thoughts, like controversies. It's so interesting because I posted this on my Instagram story and many nurses had so much to say. See, there's nurses in the USA, but from different states, and they're my friends. They had a lot to say about the video. It was fascinating to basically everyone. One thing USA is notoriously known for is that some of us, not majority of us, but some of us, we focus more on life in the USA. What we know in the USA, we don't really go out of our way to know what's like in another country. But somebody like me, I love to do my research, love to know what nurses are making outside of the state. So exciting to see this video and see a nurse who relocated from the UK comparing UK versus USA. I do not work for NHS. I would never truly be able to speak from a subjective point of view. Everything I would say would come from objective and me comparing like United States. Yet still, it was a topic that really enticed me and I had to just dive deeper on the research. Do this video just for fun. I did this video honestly as an educative purposes when we talk about what nurses make. I didn't do this video, you would have known like what a nurse make in the UK. You would have been familiar with the bands that they do have, some of the things you know you need to become a nurse. And for my insight looking in as a US nurse, you would see what it's like as an outsider looking into UK nursing. Hey nurse, share your experience down there. Give us some pros and cons. What the media doesn't say, please put it down there. I trust subjective opinions so much, and this is maybe because I'm a nurse or somebody that works in the healthcare, but I trust subjective opinions 10 times more. So give us your insight. You wear the shoes, let us know. Now, why does somebody like me see something like this on TikTok and it sparks my interest? Number one, I am a registered nurse. I've had background in ICU, step down, oncology. I've been a nurse for 3 years now. I've had like diverse nursing experience. I also have like what it's like working bedside and off bedside. The other pros to me is in the United States here, we do have like top states like where they pay nurses more than other states. The top 10 states that they pay nurses. My state was like in the number 9. I am fortunate enough to work in Jersey, so we make bank over here. I'm lucky to be above the average because of the state I am in, but under consideration for somebody like me, I was like, this pay justify why they're being paid like this. I had to dive in to get a understanding of what it's like working in the UK versus working in the state and getting familiar with the nursing. What is it like a nurse could do better to like up their pay in the UK? Just the money brain, like what can you do better? Because nursing is not easy. So don't let anybody tell you out here like, I get it. Number one, you're supposed to be for the passion. Your passion gonna put food on your table in this freaking inflation economy. So I'm like, what can a nurse do in the UK better to up their pay? Comes to finance, not many people are so transparent about finance. And when it comes to the nursing industry, many people hear like nurses make money, but not many people literally know how much a nurse is made. So basically she was comparing her being in the NHS and now her moving to the USA.
For those of us who are still contemplating between the UK and the US, is it worth it?
I would honestly say it is 110%
The video came out 7 months ago, and at the time she was doing the interview, it was about like 3 months of her working in the the United States, and basically she was comparing her paycheck. And one of the things she said was 4 weeks, like the United Kingdom, UK, they pay monthly. For somebody like me that's in the US, it was like, whoa. Here in the States, we get paid like 2 weeks, or you could make like a weekly paycheck. Now, that wasn't even the part that was interesting to me, but when homegirl was talking about how much she was making in the United Kingdom, she said she was making about
UK, my average take home after for 4 weeks was around 1,800.
1,800 pounds. So she's making for 4 weeks monthly $2,265, obviously estimatedly, and this is after tax. And then she was comparing her 4 weeks paycheck, being that her 4 weeks paycheck in the United States
And
was
here,
about
my average take home after tax for 4 weeks is about 5,500.
like me that does money math. I said 5,500. That's what she was making monthly in the United States, estimatedly 4 weeks. She was bringing home $2,750 after tax. This is net pay. After gross and they do all the taxes, was bringing home $2,750, and her UK paycheck was $2,265 for 4 weeks. And this woman moved to the USA for just 3 months, and she has been making this money. Basically, someone's 2-week paycheck is a lot more than somebody's like monthly paycheck in the UK, especially in nursing. That is so wild. And as for somebody like me that is always like trying to up my paycheck, seeing how I can make like a lot more money than I'm making, I was like, what can a nurse do over there? Like, what's a advantageous way they could do to make more money? Something I found very exciting up on Googling, you guys probably know this, in the UK they have NHS, the National Health Service. Hospitals that are under the government, they're under the free healthcare. So there is NHS, and they do have private entities as well, but NHS is really big in the UK. NHS is very transparent when it comes to their pay, so if you're always looking to research about pays in the UK, it's so easy to just go on NHS and see how much they pay nurses. It's very transparent, unlike the US here. So basically with NHS comes with bands. They have like categories, I will say. So there is band 1 to band 9. So if you are a registered RN, you are in band 5. So for band 5, this is what I see when it comes to the pay. Obviously, you work hard, work smart. There are ways you could obviously navigate your pay outside of this bracket. So for annual salary, band 5 as a registered nurse, you could start making from £25,000 a year to almost £34,000 a year. Obviously, within the United States, we do have range that a nurse can make, but there are nurses that obviously go above the outliers. In my head, I was like, bro, this is still like, when you convert this to US dollars for a nurse and everything, it's still to me like quite low. Yearly annual salary, this is what a nurse would make in band 5, which is considered registered nurse. They have band 6, and you can stop at band 9. Somebody like me in the US here, we focus more on hourly pay, so I had to dive deeper and see how much they make hourly pay. And I'm still looking at band 5 because to me, from researching and everything, I do understand if you're a registered nurse in the UK, you would be in band 5. So for band 5, I was like, okay, so how much is a nurse making if this is the estimate like annual salary? How much are they making an hourly rate? And it came to my knowledge that a nurse could make like £13.84 an hour. It goes up like in 2 years and like 14.92 an hour, and they could be making 16.84 cents an hour. It's like, oh my god, like hourly pay still is now making sense to me, because here in the US, our new grad nurses start from like $40 an hour, and I'm talking specifically Jersey. We do have hospitals that do pay like within the 30s, but you'll be getting like maybe as a new grad 38 in your residency program or something like that. So, and then you start going up as you get experience. You start going up with like differentials, shift differential, weekend differential. There is so much that can increase your pay, holidays, overtime. That was also something that as an outsider looking into UK nursing, that was something like I saw and I was like, this is quite like interesting when it comes to the hourly pay that they make. So it's still not sufficient. I was quite curious to know is how much hours are nurses being made. Nurses on the floor, hours they work a week is basically 37.5. Something NHS keeps saying, it's basically that they're very flexible. You have nurses that do 12 hours and they do like 3 12s, you know, like 4 offs. NHS really talks about flexibility. The other thing I have to look into was like their benefits. I have like 401k, 403b, like all the things we kind of have here in the USA. And they talk about their pension, and their pension being like how many percent they can take off your salary for retirement. Looking for the NHS, they were talking like estimated being like 7% to like 9.3%. I did see at some point it could be all the way to 10% for like your pension, what they could take out of your salary for your retirement benefit. To me, from what I researched, it didn't seem like they have so much options when it comes to like benefit, because we do have here in the US like our 401k, 403b, and in some places after a year or so they match the money you've put in. You also have like flexibility in how much percent you can make them take from your paycheck. They do say in NHS, their PTO in the UK, they do call it leave. They're saying the leave is like 27 days leave, and they give you like 8 paid holidays. Here as well, we do have 8 paid holidays. Juneteenth from my hospital just got included. Now we have like 8 paid holidays, and it was the same for NHS. So standard across the board, it's like 27 days holiday. Obviously, as you keep progressing in your career, it goes up, but it's like 29. I think the highest I saw was like 33 days. It's a bit different because their healthcare is free as well, so it's not like us that will have like our health insurance and benefit. Like in the US, we do have a bunch of more benefit plan for pension as well. Now, the second thing I had to look into seeing the pay was like the patient to nurse ratio. With the US here, if you're working in ICU, you could get 1 to 2 patients. And if you're on the med-surg floor, you could get like 1 nurse to 4 patient, or you could have 1 to 6 patients, specifically here in the East Coast. Now in the UK, they do get to have like similar ratios like us, but they tend to go up as well. One thing I literally saw from like reputable sources and also nurses that work on the floor saying, the thing about NHS, it is a free healthcare as we all know it, but it comes with good and bad. One thing nurses were definitely saying that work for NHS and now working in the States was that with NHS, it is free healthcare. So people don't really consider there's a sickness that needs like urgent care clinic, or me going to see my doctor in the doctor's office. Is this a sickness that needs for me to go directly into hospital? Like, people don't consider this. Here in the States, you think of your insurance, you think of so many things, and you think of like, where can I go? Really put thought into it. How people say when it's free, people abuse it. It's like that in NHS. One thing a nurse was saying that worked in the ER and now working in the States.
Patient to nurse ratio, it is 4 to 1. So 1 nurse to 4 patients, just like in the UK. Okay. But what I find is that because the UK is free, we tend to have a lot of people visiting in a day. Sometimes I get to here and our waiting room is literally empty. But in the UK, you will never see that. The waiting room. Unless it's like Christmas, and even after that, they're going to show up. So
it's good and bad, but it kind of sometimes increase like the nurse to patient ratio. While in the US, insurance, like you're paying for this visit. So you really think, like literally a few days ago, I stepped into a bottle that I thought was a bottle, and I had to think like I could drive myself to the ER, but I was like, I looked and I assessed myself and I could tell there was no bottle in there, but I just needed a second opinion. And I was like, let me just drive to the clinic, because it wasn't like a do or die. Now if it's something that's free, you're just like, baby, I could go to the ER. Like, I'm not saying the urgent care don't charge you, but I'm just saying the ER here in the US, they're gonna push it. They're gonna keep you there for 8 hours. You think before you go there, versus there, it's free healthcare, so people are really packed because people have like accessibility, which is nothing wrong with that. But also, it kind of increases the nurse to patient ratio, meaning it goes up, and some of them are not emergent and don't really need to be in the ER. In hospitals in the UK as well, they do have private hospitals. Now, I have heard private hospitals in the UK pays more than NHS. Obviously, it's kind of hard to get those jobs. It's not so accessible. It is accessible, but not so accessible. Chances of you getting into NHS versus a private ones are a bit harder. The thing I've heard about private hospital, NHS, like I said, they're very transparent in showing you like how much they pay, the band, how much you're gonna be making. They're very transparent. It's literally there. With private hospitals, what I do see nurses in the UK complain or talk about the cons of it is that with the private hospital, they're not so transparent with the pay. You have to go in there and kind of negotiate your pay. Now, for a nurse like me in America, I'm like, I don't know, for me, we do it like that. Honestly, as a new grad, I think it was the only time like a hospital told me this is what I'm gonna pay you, and I didn't know about negotiating. But ever since then, I've literally negotiated for every single one of my pay. You know, you just kind of like, if you know a friend there or you know somebody there, they kind of give you like an insight to the pay, and then you can negotiate, or you could do your research and see in that specialty, in that field, how much a nurse can make, and then go in. With nurses in the US, being a lot of them work for NHS and seeing transparency with NHS pay, they find that the private things that you have to negotiate, you're literally negotiating in the blind, but they do pay more than NHS. The other thing I've heard from a nurse that works in the UK, also did a research, is that the nursing practice, not like it's so different from the US here, but their RN don't do a lot that we do. Their nurses don't really auscultate, mostly the doctors. It's not really a nurse's responsibility to write an interesting journal, which I would put the link down below. And this is a nurse that worked in the state and was trying to move to abroad and work for NHS. And she said some of the things she has to do. She was a nurse that had experience in ICU and as well stepped down. And she said she felt like when she went there, obviously she has to be checked, competency and all that stuff. And she said one of the things that it felt like she was kind of, I don't know how to put this, like she felt like her skills went down a lot. Also, I've talked to a couple of nurses like in the UK as well. You tell them a lot of stuff that we do here in the States and they're like, we don't do what you guys do. The type of care we provide here as RN, I'm not saying they provide less of a care. They provide according to your scope of practice in the country, state that you're in. So in the UK, it's a bit different. Obviously, I can't say the workload is easy because that would be so much of audacity in me, but there's differences in the scope of practice in the state, scope of practice in the UK. Now, as I talk about free healthcare in NHS and stuff like that, I also wanted to see, as a nurse being paid such an amount, what can they do to make a nurse work a bit easier or better? And for years, I've been looking into NHS. I've seen like with NHS, they were more like paper-based and they weren't into like EMR system, but now I do see they just have their NHS digital and it's literally their EMR system, something like Epic. I really prefer like EMR systems because it helps prevent error. It helps communicate with different health facilities and what's going on with the patient. I think it's a very good communicating tool for all healthcare practice. As of 2023, they do say there are 90% of hospitals in the UK now using this, so this is a bit better. Additionally, something I found fun, in the UK, they do have A&E, and that's the accidental and emergency. Here in the state, we call it ER or ED. ER here is our emergency room or our emergency department. One of the pros to UK nursing is that if you're a healthcare worker in like Africa, it's easy to transition to UK because the whole educational system, it's the same. A&E, I do have professionals in like Zambia, Sierra Leone and stuff like that, and they'll tell me like A&E, and I'll be like, what is A&E? They'll explain it to me and I'll be like, oh, you mean ER. They do have the theater. The theater, if you say it in the US here, we probably will know what you're saying, but the theater is our OR, and that's our operating room. They do have wards. They call it wards. That's like our med-surg floor. You know, we have like our ortho floor, our urology floor, geriatric floor, our oncology floor. What I found about UK that people were complaining was this floors, they don't name it. They name it after like villages. I'll put them here on the screen, but they named them after like villages, so you don't really know the floor because of the way they name it. Because here we're very like geriatric floor, oncology, bariatric, you know, ortho. Walk into the floor, you know the floor. I've also heard they're trying to make private rooms now, like some have it specifically to NHS, but majority of it, it's like splitting it with curtains. In the US here, we do have private rooms. We do have rooms for the patients, and they could be 2 in one room, but we don't put them like all in one. So I don't know how they do that in the UK. We could share like 2 rooms. If you're in a bigger hospital, I've seen 3 patients in one room and then split a curtain. But for the whole time now, like all the hospitals I've been at, it's been 2 patients and a split of curtains. If you work for the NHS, they do offer you 2 sets of uniform and they could give you shoes. Here in the US is a bit different because here, if you work in like pre-op and PACU and endo or operating room, theater, like they do have scrubs like for those people. Like, once you're done, you just take it out and they clean it. But if you're like a floor nurse, let's say in the UK, you're working in the wards, you do pay for your uniform now. I've worked in different hospitals. The first hospital I worked at as a new nurse was, there is time of the year they add like bonus to your paycheck, and they call that like money for your uniform, but it's like different from one hospital to the other. There are hospitals that will give you money. It's not like all the time it's say this is for like your uniform. I've worked in a hospital like that. There are hospitals that just don't give you money for your uniform. It is what it is. But in NHS, that's one thing they do say. They do give you a set. It doesn't matter the department you work. Some areas they do give you shoes as well. I have seen also online, people in other countries see US as a gunshot land, like seen in videos, and nurses in the UK and under the comments were saying yes, it is without a doubt that nurses in the US make more money than nurses in the UK, but many people are like, I cannot compromise my safety in the US here, it's unsafe, there's a lot of shooting, I love UK, I cannot compromise my safety over money. This is literally what I have to say to everyone that thinks US is unsafe. It is where you live. The way the media portrays it, I am not saying they don't do gunshot in the US. I've been to Canada, traveling. I always hear people say like, US, all they do is shoot. I cannot live in the US. I don't know why you guys do it. And I say to this, it's where you live. Like places in Chicago, we hear about this all the time. Places like in the hood and stuff like that. It's literally where you stay. Even in the UK, they do have places. In Canada, I've seen ghetto ass places. Like they do have places. It's literally where you stay. Like I stay here in New Jersey. I do not stay anywhere close to Newark, and you know, in those places they're quite like expensive, cost of living is a bit high and stuff like that. You pay for what you get. We've stayed here for like years and I've never had gunshot. We've left our keys at the door, it's been safe. We've left our keys in the car, it's been safe. Like it's been the safest neighborhood I've ever lived in. So sometimes when people talk about, it's like they come to your house, they just do this, and it's like, it's not like that. The media just makes it 10 times worse, but it's not like that. So people saying I can't come to the US for my safety, I just say on your end, the media makes it seem like what it's not. But if you stay in a good neighborhood, you don't hear things like that. I have never witnessed things like that, and I've been in the States for decades. The lady that did the interview and compared her paycheck with UK versus US was saying,
I am scared, and this fear is from all the things that I've heard. So all these fears that I have were preconditioned based on the things that people told me, that I read in the news. So it's not like the crimes are actively happening, and when you are going to work, you are like, excuse me, I'm going to work for you guys, please. No, it's not like that. It's just unfortunate that the news normally broadcast negativity. So that is why most of the times you hear about all these things. But it's not like the crimes are literally every corner, like every place. No, it's not like that.
I was gonna be like, but I want to stay in the UK. Like ain't nobody tell you to leave UK. I'm just saying and comparing out of curiosity and people like me that want to know. I do have tons of respect for nurses wherever you are. I respect you. It's not an easy profession at all. So seeing all this and comparing, I would say if you're a nurse from like Ghana, Nigeria and stuff like that, UK will be your best bet because they do have professional exams for nurses. They do really cater to international nurses. Here in the US, I'm not saying they don't, but I feel like most of the times, like in a nursing school, nurses have to honestly start all over again to become a nurse. You only like nurses in the Philippines that I've seen really just, you know, but for the most part, you have to kind of start all over again because our NCLEX is a bit different. UK, as they colonize other countries, they tend to bring in their educational system to other countries as well. So that's a bit like different from the US. Seeing what nursing is like for both the UK and US and doing my research, for me personally, I couldn't be a nurse in the UK. So me as a US nurse, it's quite underpaid. I do know there are options to, of course, increase your pay, but you get paid monthly. You make that check. It's not for me. Without a doubt, being quite honest here, nurses in the US make more money than nurses in the UK. So it doesn't come with competition on who makes the most money. It's not about competition. It's about thinking. People are different. Many people don't want to live in the States. The States is not really their end and be all. So people do have the reasons they stay in the UK and people do have the reasons they stay in the US. But if we're looking financially, you would see that without a doubt nurses make more money in the US. What you would make a month here, a nurse would make it in 2 weeks, and even make more than that, way more than that. Like, somebody in Walmart could make more than what a nurse makes in the UK, and this is no shade to anybody. If you're a nurse in the UK, I would really love for you to put your insight. If you are a US nurse, we could talk down in the comment. Is this something that you could consider? Is that something NHS could make you consider to work in the UK versus the US? We'll see you guys on my next video. You have so much more lovely nursing content coming for you guys. Did I tell you I want to be roaming around town? You put this job online and make sure you put roaming around town. You and me, 2 different people. Let's understand that. Roaming around states. Jersey to New York. Yeah. You mad? Are you mad? Till then, bye my loves.